Past the hour tonight, we're looking at this new trend that is rocking the love boat in a very tragic manner. We've seen, lovebirds, family members turning on each other. And now in studio, still have Dr. Susan Gitau and Dr. Frank Njenga. Dr. Susan is a psychologist and Dr. Frank Njenga a psychiatrist. And let me start with you, Dr. Susan, once again. Let me just look at this one case study that we have for our viewers here. I've already talked about it. A Kiambu man who killed his wife, 3 children, set the house on fire, and of course he killed himself later. When his family members are asked why, they said that he was conned, by some illicit businessmen, and the reason as to why he did that was out of frustration. And if you look at some experts, they're saying that men are likely to destroy their family when they feel like they can no longer provide for them financially. They also resort to that when they feel like the family is divided, maybe because of divorce. Is it true the men are the ones who are the most likely perpetrators on this kind of a situation?
Yeah, thank you. You realize that I think people generally think that men don't care when families break down, but men care more when families break down than women. Mm-hmm. Because in most cases, women are able sometimes to move on. But men, it's sometimes difficult to move on without your partner. Mm-hmm. They also think that the society is going to look at them as weak men who could not hold their families together. Mm-hmm. And the male ego is one that doesn't like to be broken down or be discouraged. Mm-hmm. So it's good that we clear out there so that also the women know that it's not their desire, even when they judge them from their behavior, it's not that they desire the families to break up. Most men, again, mm-hmm. like that case, if they say that is the truth, that he was conned, men do make most of the times financial decisions that are destructive to the family. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they can, even this time I know they've put bets on sports pesa, and it is one area I want to insist we really need to look into. And mm-hmm. I guess this platform, on KTN TV, we once had a man who shared openly, and he said he wants to share.
Well said.
Because he shared about mm-hmm. betting, mm-hmm. and he said when he wanted to commit suicide, mm-hmm. in the real sense, it is because he felt he has let down his family, he has let down his loved ones, his colleagues, and he felt the best way is to kill himself. That mm-hmm. is one of a few men who will do that. Majority of the men who look at their families and think there will be no one to take care of them, at times the first decision that they make, or the first thought that comes to their mind, is that I'll clear all of them, I clear myself, and so I will leave no one with any burden that they're going to say it was because of me. And sometimes at that level, I like to say, and I'm happy that we have a psychiatrist in mm-hmm. here, you mm-hmm. are not normal. When you think about killing your loved ones, killing your own children that probably invested so heavily to get them where they are, you are not normal. So yes, let us not accept some of the things that we can see are actually not normal.
Yes, but Dr. Susan, well said. Hold on to that. Let me pick Dr. Njenga's thought on this. And Dr. Those who are saying or blaming the current trend on the, the current cost of living. Of course, you've already mentioned that it's a global problem. Don't you think that the cost of living has something to do with the current trend that we're seeing families standing on each other, or is this just an excuse for this?
Well, the cost of living is one parameter mm-hmm. of many things that are going astray in this our otherwise very happy land. For example, every day we are reading about matters of governance or corruption, of schools burning down, of politicians fighting with each other. Let me say this. Cost of living is one of the many parameters that are affecting and afflicting our society mm-hmm. Negatively. And therefore, if one was just to pick one item, say it is because of corruption, or the one thing, it is because of poor governance, mm-hmm. or it is one thing, then one doesn't get it. I think we have very deep and fundamental issues mm-hmm. that are pushing particularly people who are vulnerable, people who are either financially, emotionally, on the edge, over the brink, And one of the manifestations of being pushed over the brink are some of the things that we are now discussing. This evening.
And is it true? And is it true that men are the most likely perpetrators of this violence?
Well, that's what the statistics are telling us. Statistics also tell us that in general, men are the perpetrators of most violence in the family setting. Statistics tell us that if you look at prisons globally, you will probably find more men in those prisons. In other words, it may be something either through socialization or through biology that links or relate the male gender with more acts of aggressiveness and violence. I will not apologize for that. That is an observation that I think is correct.
Well said. Dr. Susan, there's a viewer here at Ibrahim Meso who says, counseling should be encouraged in marriage institutions. These cases of murders are alarming. The biggest mistake is thinking that they could handle all the problems by themselves. Do you agree with him that most couples believe that, they can handle all the problems coming their way without necessarily, seeking guidance?
At the time we accepted that things have changed. Traditionally, you will find that if families had problems, they knew the particular people to approach, either within the clan system or within the community, and they were helped. But today, we are split all over. So you realize that if they do not accept to share out, because you can actually not solve everything. For example, if I get a partner who was not able to solve a particular issue depending on where they came from, and I also could not solve that particular issue, that both of us are incapacitated. We need somebody else. We actually need a third leg to help us, and that is where our work comes in. That we make you process, we make you talk. Because if I always tell partners, if they can just take a moment when you feel your emotions are rising, and probably even put your hand on your heart, you will tell your heart is beating very fast. And in that case, you are likely to do something that you did not intend to do. But how many people go to counselors? So the old saying or stand that do not talk about family issues or do not wash your dirty linen in public. Surely when you murder, everybody gets to know about it. So it's important that we start accepting. And I'm very happy because some churches have started these kind of initiatives. And even the clergy, they are accepting. There are some issues we cannot handle. They are beyond us. They need to go to professional counselors. And I'm also very happy because the psychiatrists are also coming on board. And we are talking about a multidisciplinary or what I cannot handle, if it's beyond, the symptoms are beyond, can I hand that over to the psychiatrist or the clinical psychologist? The sociologists also need to come out, especially now, because they also can be able to tell when a society is changing. Just like some of the things you have pointed out there. What is happening, for example, in the Kenyan scenario? What is going on? How is it likely to affect the family system? Are we talking about it, or we are just putting everything under the carpet? So it is important that people know counseling is nothing big, it's not psychiatry, it is talking about the issues that are harming me. And I'm better off when I vent them out. I am better off when somebody helps you to make sense of what is going on so that I do not hurt people that I actually confess and profess that I love. So people seek counselors' support.
Of course, well said. And before I go on to Dr. Njenga, Dr. Susan, there's a question I posed to Dr. Njenga earlier with regards to the cost of living. And of course, vis-a-vis what is happening, the current trend we're seeing in the country where we're seeing, family members attacking each other. Is this an excuse? Excuse, or is one of the major reasons why we're seeing, this kind of violence happening in this country?
One thing I'm not going to refuse, because even in marriages we say the two main causes of separation and divorce is finances and infidelity. And if you look at the current economy, I think families are hardest hit, and especially the low-income earners. And I told you before that you find men, if they are critiqued, for example, if there is very dysfunctional communication system, you're asking your husband when he comes home, what kind of a man are you? If you went in the morning empty-handed, you have come back the same way. I don't think you're the man I was supposed to marry. That is going to break his ego. And if you keep hammering this in and out, at some point, because men are not blessed, allow me to use word, with so many words of expressing themselves, they get physical. And you may also realize that when you look at the country, when we cannot be able to sort out some things, because in most cases we leave so many things incomplete and hanging. It is the same scenario you'll find in the family system and in the marital system. Just like somebody wrote in The Nation yesterday inside that we are blaming the children, the students in schools, that they are banning, they are doing ABCD. Apparently, if you follow up the cases of those students, it's very difficult that you realize that they came from stable families. A lot of dysfunctionalities that are in there in families. And I think it's high time we talked as a nation. It's the high time we said, all of us have a take in this, and can we also point out? Because people have also become very individualistic. That it's about my life, it's about my family. I don't care about my
Dr. Susan, let me engage Dr. Jenga for now. I'm sure you've had Dr. Susan's point of view there. At what point, for example, can a couple decide, well, we need somebody to intervene. We need to stop, talking at each other. We need to bring in a third party, for example, a psychiatrist or psychologist. At what point should a couple decide, well, we need somebody to come and intervene?
It's an excellent question, because it allows me to make a point that I really must make, which is that much as Susan, myself, and other experts need to make a living, the majority of human beings, the majority of marriages that exist in this country are successful. I might repeat that.
Yes.
Most people watching this program are in very happy, solid marriages that will last perhaps even a lifetime. What we as experts are here to do is to look at a very, very, very important minority of instances where our help and intervention is required. So let's not give the impression that there's a crisis in marriage. What we are here to say is that in the event that you are in a marriage that is facing difficulties, which is your question, what should one do? Who should one go to first? Now, I hold the view that the first port of call is with parents.
Yes.
When boy and girl, when man and wife are not getting on, go to your parents, go to your relatives, go to your church, go to your pastor. In other words, it's an ascending order of complications. Not everybody who has a marital problem needs to go and see a big doctor in the city.
I think you've delivered your point there. Yes, Dr. Ariu, unfortunately, we are out of time. Let me give Dr. Susan the final say here. Dr. Susan, as much as I'll give you time to react to Dr. Njenga's point of view, there's something I need you to address in just a few minutes. Actually, we have only 2 minutes with us. Let's talk about domestic violence. It seems like this is something that is happening right under our noses, but most people tend to ignore it.
Yes, and I would like to maybe talk to Dr. Njenga and say, can we do a survey? Statistics speak louder than us maybe thinking and pretending that all is well, because we cannot have all these cases being reported and we assume everything is okay. For me, I would want to say, as much as we are denying, the family is actually challenged in a very big way, and I'm worried about our children. So what I would want to say is that all of us, all the systems that socialize children, all the systems that take care of the family, and even the government, because the government, I always say, where there is a will, the government will always do something and sort out issues in this nation. Can we do something? Can we refuse to live in denial? Because the more we live in the denial, saying everything is okay, my family is okay, and the next thing when something disturbing happens in your family, you will have nowhere to talk. You will have no face to face yourself or even your loved ones. Can we do something about it?
Well said, Dr. Susan. I think I have just 1 more minute. Dr. Njenga, your final statement as we conclude.
Okay, I mean, we're entitled to hold different views. I still hold the view that there's a very, very, very important minority that we must look after and really care for.
Yes.
But there's a sense in which we can over-medicalize the marital environment. These cases we're talking about are very dramatic. They catch headlines. They bring people to the studios. But dramatic as they are, I don't believe that they characterize the marital and domestic situation in a general term. They're important, they're in a minority, and we must look after them. But the majority of people, I think, are in good and happy unions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Frank Jenga, for your input. Dr. Frank Jenga is a psychiatrist. Dr. Susan Gitao as well. She is a lecturer at African Nazarene University, also doubles up as a counseling psychologist. Many thanks for your input there. And of course, thank you for tuning into KTN News. Of course, you'll be watching the big story right on KTN News. My name is Yusuf Ibrahim. Up next is KTN Prime. Don't go too far. Stay with us.